reform.
Well, thank you, and some of you have heard me before, so like Ray follows me around or I follow him. I'm not sure which one it is, but I am going to pass out note cards. If you don't have paper, there are some things I want you to write down because you are the difference. You make the difference. We need people to get activated in a way not everybody's been recently, but we have had wins when we're activated. But I'll tell you a little bit about me. I had activist parents. They were in Missouri. I was in a stroller for Goldwater when I was a little girl.
Wow.
My mom was, yeah. So we go pretty far back. So we would have people's handbills, flyers all over our fireplace, and we sort them and make packets. And I do have pens too. I want it so bad I brought pens. And I'll interrupt and tell y'all too while we're passing out. I brought an old torch. We do a once a month except summer, although we're doing one on CRT. This is our February on elections. We would write the exact same thing again because they haven't done anything to fix elections. And so feel free to take a copy of that. It does mean you have less to write because it does have our website on at the end of it. But anyway, I became a believer my senior year of high school, and that's where I started realizing that your worldview as it was growing took a while. But has to match your politics, and when it does, gosh, you can stand firm because you're following somebody that never changes. And so it's really easy to be, sometimes we're going against the current on things, and it's easy to do if you're doing biblical politics. So that's where I come from. My husband and I have raised 3 boys. We launched our last one about 2 years ago. And that's given me a lot more time to do this, but Kathy Adams did this spectacularly for a long time. Tracy Bradford filled the role for a little bit, but then went off with 20 pounds. And I was just being Dallas Eagle Forum's president and really, really loving that. But I do like issues, and I love reading law because I'm nuts. And so, it was a good fit when Tracy stepped away. I was kind of that person, so you get me now. So we'll take others. I do have some people, God is bringing me people as issue leaders, and that is spectacularly helpful to have somebody who just plain has a passion in this lane. Whatever lane that is, as long as it's constitutional and biblical. There are a couple things Eagle Forum's not for, but if it fits in that, we need more of these people, and we need them to go down to Austin and pitch a fit when we need to, and make phone calls, and that's what we need just everybody in the grassroots for, because, okay, I thought this was supposed to change my slides. Okay, we are having, I'm not professional here. I had a second slide. Okay, there it is. So we had wins in the last session, and this is more for me than y'all, but do you remember HB 3? Yeah, it was nasty. It was a nasty bill. It made the Governor King, whoever that governor might be, in any pandemic, and it included in it something that absolutely horrified me. They were talking about businesses. I grew up with a dad having a small business. My husband has a small business. As long as you complied with federal mandates, proclamations, and edicts, you were okay from being sued. Federal. Our state legislators wrote a law that took the 10th Amendment and ripped it to shreds and said that business owners had to care about federal edicts. And that was just kind of the end. So we went to battle with a bunch of other people. Alerts went viral. People made phone calls. And did anybody watch the committee hearing on that bill? They did it right away. And we had a Democrat say, I had 167 calls and emails against this bill and 0 for. There's nothing I can do. And a Republican said, I can't go back to my district if this passes. People killed the bill. phone calls, emails, mainly phone calls. We're finding phone calls are better. The other one was obviously constitutional carry. The people in the state made unbelievable amount of phone calls. We've heard that the Lieutenant Governor's office, I think it was something like 17,000 calls on it.
Wow.
But it gets it passed. You know, he was not for that bill, and it got it passed. So the people are our key. Us, me, you know, each one of you just, we tell people this is a 2-minute call, you know, and making a couple calls can just take 2 minutes. I hate this. Thanks, bye. You know, and that's all you really have to say. You know, and it matters because you're the one who elected him to office. And I right now have 2 Democrats, and I bug their office on big issues as well. They just need to know our Democrat's not coming back, but we don't have a good person running against him. So where we're not winning is education, taxes. You know, nobody's done anything about that. Child protection. You know, smaller government, we're more for the liberty to thrive. We're not for like anarchy, liberty, you know, just nothing. So we have some disagreements with libertarians, but the ability to thrive. And then protecting our grid, which your senator, of course, is spectacular on. And I have had the blessing to be able to sit in some of these sessions that he has done for legislators. I tell you, not all of them go, but the ones who go and the staffers who go, they take it to the next office. They understand we can't get it past our own party. And, you know, people just want to do a little show bill and they want it to be theirs. We've had committee chairs say, I'll take that bill, I'm gonna, you know, and they're able to do that, is take it from Bob, Senator Hall, and take it and say, I'm gonna get this through. Well, that was the first time it didn't make it, you know, and then it's really, really frustrating because the stuff we got does a little bit, but it doesn't do what we need to do. But so I'm going to move more into the education and child protection areas because those are things that are hot with me. So last session, you all know there were a couple different kinds of bills presented. One was to call it child abuse, and the bill was weak and it was made weaker in committee. The other one, Bob had one, and Krause had one, and in the House, and somebody else had one that took away the ability to buy liability insurance for doctors. We had spent about a year just having conversations with our doctor friends, or doctors that we knew, and said, how do we get somebody to stop this? And they all recommended, don't insure them. Don't insure them, and they will not do a procedure. If you call it child abuse, you're saving the kid after the fact, so you're not saving the kid. Well, who stopped those bills and why? I think you all know. I mean, it's complicated, and it had a lot of blockage all the way through. Bob's bill did come nicely through the Senate, and he had to correct me on that. I forgot that it had, but they wouldn't let it out of committee in the House. The Education Committee in the House, Stephanie Click, did not want the bill that was child abuse. She didn't want that to happen, so she never had that be heard. But 1399, Krause's bill, she did allow to be heard. It had an excellent hearing, and the proof was just laid out right there. We had one Democrat on the committee that we really did think was maybe going to jump ship and vote. We have found when we've done walks where we just, you know, have people come to the Capitol and we give them a hallway and they go distribute things. We had 4 little groups of 2 get in to speak to the Democrat representative. All 4 of them, and maybe there were more, but we heard back from 4. All 4 of the Democrats said, you know, you're right on this. It's nuts to do this to children, but I have to vote against protecting them. But we feel like, you know, I mean, God can change hearts and they can start seeing truth. But then our governor wrote a letter, and you probably all saw that, right? It was a letter to Protective Services, the head of that, I forget her name, and he said, is this child abuse to do genital mutilating surgeries? And we were expecting her to come back with the left's answer, which is, oh gosh, no, it's worse, they'll commit suicide if you don't. That is what our kids are taught to say in order to move their process further. That is what it's trending with girls. It's just such a crazy thing. We expected her to go with that, but she came back and said, yes, it is child abuse. So we're immediately looking for the holes, like, wait, okay, she used this word, what does that really mean? And we start looking, but the really glaring hole is that it doesn't stop or protect a child, her decision, from puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones. They are devastating to the body. A child who goes on puberty blockers will end up having 3% bone density compared, like if you put them on the scale, you know, my kid's in the 100th percentile. Your kid will end up in the 3 percentile on blockers. They end up with, so they have brittle bones, they have some heart issues, they have a lot of things. But in some ways it begins a sterilization process. If they're on them a long time, it can completely sterilize them. You can reverse it, but you're taking a child who's had some years out, and so say it's a little girl thinking she wants to be a boy, and all the other girls are growing up, and the boys are growing up, and she's just this little girl because they've stopped her body. It is a dangerous process. There are kids who need this because they have real early puberty, and their body's missing something, so it's filling the gaps for what their body's missing. But a healthy child, it's doing a lot of damage. So almost always the next step will be the cross-sex hormone. Girls' bodies know how to take testosterone and turn it into estrogen. So a girl trying to be a boy is taking unimaginable doses of testosterone. And boys don't have to take as much because their body, you know, the estrogen, whatever, it doesn't change it. So their voice changes, a boy's voice goes high, a girl's voice starts going low, their fat distribution changes, brain function. That's another thing. On the hormone blockers, your brain needs your hormones, and it's made for the right hormones. So you're also doing, they think, some cognitive damage and things like that. There are people, I know some people who are trans and aren't trans anymore. They take all kinds of medications. They will never really be free. If they move on to the surgeries, it's just gross. I don't recommend even looking on. But even the cross-sex hormones will change the appearance of a girl's body in really disturbing ways. It's not natural, it's not normal, and now they're doing weird surgeries where they're keeping both parts, and it's just destructive, but they're sterile. You know, and a kid can't understand. I tell people, you know, I have 3 boys, and one of my boys at age 5, 6, 7 would have traded his sterility for spicy Cheez-Its. It was his favorite food, he wanted them all the time. You know, kids don't know what they're giving up, and I would propose at 16, you don't know what you're giving up. We work to get our platform to say 21 because we know the brain's not done. So we're really concerned. We're concerned about the governor's letter. We are talking to Munisteri in his office. And I'm sorry, I just do last names. I am supposed to say Mr. former chair, but we're trying to explain to him, and he did act very, very surprised that hormone blockers and cross-sex hormones are damaging, like really damaging. So maybe they are surprised, maybe something else will come of it, but we're really nervous about going that route because a kid's already doing it. Somebody has to call child abuse. You're calling it on any providers, and guess who the new provider is for this stuff? Planned Parenthood, because they can't kill your baby, so they'll sterilize you. I mean, you know, it is just, it's their new money. Abortion is declining, it's their new money. So how do we protect our kids? I know you all can't read this, but I'm gonna just read it. We've got to ban the sale of liability insurance and revoke credentials, and that's what the Better bills do. So when we're sending out an alert, that is what I want you to sign up for. I want you to write down TexasEagleForum.org. If you type COM, you'll get to us as well. We have a thing at the top that says alerts. It's not the money. The money supports us and does the torch. It's just alerts. You can cancel when you're done with us if you get tired of them. But we will point out, you know, this bill's up here and this bill's up there. And I don't know that the Senate passed Perry's bill. They may have. He's got one. But what we want is what they're doing in the House. We want what Krause has filed. We want what Bob Hall has filed. They have both filed good bills. So, I mean, your job's easy. You just tell Bob Hall, I like a bill. But Keith Bell, Representative Bell, needs to hear from you that our children have to be protected. What kind of nation are we? You know, abortion's already child sacrifice. Now what are we doing? I mean, it's just getting sick. So we also, another thing I'm going to talk about, we have to allow healing counseling. And last special session, Bob Hall filed a bill. I'm not even going to throw out numbers because they don't matter. They'll probably change. But he had one that was going to say you can only do healing counseling. We have to fight comprehensive sex ed in our schools, which we did. When the health teaks came up, we worked like crazy. Our side had meetings to, plot and plan and just what we are asking for and how to word it and how to try to move the left, because we came up against just flailing left. What they want to do is what they want to do, and they want it to be just okay and free to have sex.
What did you say that CSE is?
It's comprehensive sex ed.
Okay.
And right now, our state officially doesn't allow it, but we've got some bills that allow it in, and I'm gonna bring those up to you. And then CRT, of course, is critical race theory. That's hot right now. That is where you bring more people to the party. I mean, that is where you go get them, is on critical race theory. It's dividing our children. It's not a lot different than Hitler Youth and Mao taking the kids and educating them and turning them against parents, but turning them against each other and friends. I mean, nothing worse than taking little kids and turning them against each other. They hide. They hide in schools. So we look for the doors, and those are the bills we complain about.
Can I just say something right there?
Yeah.
The CRT, everybody is very familiar with that term now, but I know in the Richardson School Board, school district, that they have it disguised.
Yes.
So it's not gonna always, if you're gonna go look on websites and stuff, you can't always search on CRT or.
Yeah, no, it won't show under that. And I'll show you some resources at the end. I've got two that give a parent a toolkit, or a grandparent, or a taxpayer, because you have as much say as anybody else. And then call it abuse. So these CPS things aren't any good. We think what Evan's trying to do is not pass a law. Just say, it's covered. Gosh, surprise, it's covered. So, okay, CRT is Marxism. It comes out of conflict theory. They're creating a conflict. Hitler made the Jews the conflict. China made the educated the conflict. They're just going on race and creating a victim. So it is a battle of worldviews. I'm going to show you this. I'm going to skip here. Oh, this one doesn't have it in it. Dang it. Okay, now I've just skipped. I don't know how to go back. Fauci, did y'all see? He's the humanist of the year for 2021.
That's what humanists believe.
They are trying, that is who we're battling against, are the humanists. We know what's best for people because we're human and we're better and we're, like Fauci's Mr. Small God, to a lot of people who are falling for it. And so CRT, its goal is to erase America, the American ideal that all people are created equal. They don't, it's not based on what we all live, what people have poured into this country to have a chance to thrive. I have a grandpa who came over on a boat at 19 years old to make his way to America, but he saw this craziness rising in Germany and said, I'm out, I'm sorry family, I'm out. He had a cousin here, and he came, that's how we got here. But he saw crazy, and we're seeing crazy. We don't have anywhere to go, so we gotta fix it. Which is why I want you to sign up for our alerts, because the phone calls do matter, they do help. So it works to divide kids. I mean, one of the race, it is totally critical for conflict theory. Takes kids and says you're a victim. When you're labeled a victim and you don't have a way to overcome, it's just these people's fault, and it's the people before them and the people before them and the people before them, then it seems unsolvable. Well, how do you go anywhere in your life when you're just told your problem's unsolvable? You're a victim and you're a victim forever. And then it creates villains who did nothing wrong. They're just a kid who liked you and wants to be your friend, and so it's just awful. And then I just keep going to this, systemic racism. We hear it all the time, and system racism. If you really look at anything that's systemically racism, it's our welfare system, it's government handouts, it's things that keep people poor. You keep them poor. If you make them live in a place where people don't want to teach because they don't have a dad in the home, they don't have a parent that's ever worked a day in their life, they don't respect work, they don't respect their teacher, it all rolls into stuck. So that started stuck. They're going to make sure our kids feel stuck. In Dallas, we had a whole lot of dumb people sign the BLM pledge and kneel, and they're all getting letters right now telling them that they need to not apply their child to a top 50 school because those spots are for the people who are victimized by their whiteness. And they're mainly sending them to Democrats, but I think Democrats are going, wait, what? That's not really what I signed up for.
Those schools are no good anyway.
Yeah, and they are no good anyway. And so, yeah, your kid's going to be better off. But look at what they're doing. You know, now they're going to really take those institutions. So buzzwords. I know you can't read this, so I'm sorry. Systemic racism, justice, media literacy, and that's a problem in a bill I'm going to show you. Democracy. Oh my gosh, they're trying to kill us on democracy. They are trying to kill the Electoral College. That is why you hear 100 times a day, our democracy, our constitutional democracy, our democracy. They're building in children this idea of democracy instead of constitutional republic. And we have to use those words. And when you see just this, that simple word that is indicating that you've got a problem. But gender, of course, they're going to bring in other stuff: diversity, inclusion, anti-racism, equity, race. Abolitionist is a thing that the Austin ISD works with, and they're just really radical. They do the protests, and they get teachers, this teacher has to be willing to stand up and stand on a table and scream, kind of stuff. So I've looked at some of their stuff, and the Austin ISD just happily engages with them, and their teachers are part of it. So let's see. Oops, I went too far again. Okay, no, I didn't. Okay, so this is what passed, 3979. It was Toast's bill. Do you all know, did you kind of follow it? It got ruined in the House because there was a list of resources that were supposed to be used, and the Democrats just started piling on resources. The Republicans gave up, and they kind of took the dare, but somebody should have stopped it. It should have gotten stopped, because the Republicans could have asked for floor votes and just stopped them. So I learned a lot. I started reading about some of the resources they were adding, and they were interesting. What I feel like they were doing is trying to make our founders absolutely racist, try to get that into little children's minds young and early, instead of what you would be teaching in a real civics class, is that our Constitution was designed to move slavery on down, get rid of it. It was designed to do that, and it did do that. It took longer than it should have, but they kind of wrecked the bill. So it goes over to the Senate, and this is where we're going to talk. And I'm going to talk about TFRW, Texas Federation of Republican Women, who we're in a little bit of a fight with, and they will not meet with us to discuss it, which is a little bit frustrating. But they wanted this teacher training in the bill. And the teacher training is a backdoor to CRT. And I'll show you some connections later. But they wanted that, and that got added to the bill. But then they fixed the other things. They made it for all subjects. The original bill wasn't put in the right section to be for all subjects. And they shrunk the list back to some right things for teaching civics. But it was, when it came back to the House said, the parliamentarian, who is a Democrat, said, this is non-germane, this training is non-germane to the bill. So all the bill author had, all his options were to either just stop, okay, I give up, or send it back to the Senate and say, you can strip off everything. That's all they can do. They can't strip off the non-germane part. Every change they made had to be stripped off, and they had to send it back with that kind of dumb list and not being applied to every subject at school. And so it came back that way, and the Republicans went ahead and passed it, so we have something. It's not good, but a parent can say, hello, school board, my kid got this, and you are breaking the law. So that's where we are right now. It is starting September 1st. What does this look like in our classroom? It can be embedded in anything. It gets embedded in SEL, social emotional learning. We hate that. There's some schools, I saw a school's graph, one of the districts outside of Dallas is spending 1/3 of their time on SEL stuff, and that brings in stuff we don't like. This is what Leander's students see in 7th grade, the wheel of power. So in the middle you have power if you are cisgendered, which don't take that term, but you're man or a woman as God created you. They put on here, they bring gender, and then they also bring sexuality because those are different. And so they're talking to 7th graders about being lesbian, bi, pansexual, asexual, transgender, non-binary, so they're bringing all kinds of stuff in, and then they're telling you, oh gosh, your parents had to learn English, you're on the outside.
Where is this from?
Leander, it's north and west of Austin. In traffic, it's about an hour drive out, but it's,
And this is part of their accepted curriculum.
this is what a teacher handed out or showed in a 7th grade classroom.
So how many other schools is this also?
We don't know. This comes from, I don't have it on here, but Carol Federick, who does a lot of the education stuff for Texas Eagle Forum, she finds this stuff through Freedom of Information requests and PIRs, so she's really good at that. But this is where it really comes from, and this is scary. You can't see this. This is from a teacher college, and I almost need glasses to read it to you, but I remember what some of it is. These are, I'm sorry, what?
Can you get it in focus any better?
Well, I don't know if
Should be on the-
if it would help. Is that there? Is that a little better? Yeah, oh, that's a lot better. Okay, that is a lot better. Okay, so I didn't think we were gonna even get this to work. So, we got here, these are issues of whiteness. Now, I would say these are all American traits. Self-reliance. Gosh, we don't want, it's like, you go down, let's see, English common law. We're based on English common law. Kind of, we're better. Our founders did a really great job. They have, these are based on Christian religions. This is still blurry. It seems like it's getting more blurry. Hard work is the key to success. Gosh, gotta squash that in school. This is what teachers are learning. They're learning that these are the traits of whiteness, and that it's not fair that any other person of any other color has to follow all of these things, because this is the America that was created. But I'm sorry, hard work, when my kids would play that Oregon Trail thing, and people are just falling out of their wagon, dying, on the way, and then you're all dead and you have to start all over, because it was really, really hard to settle this nation. People work before play. Gosh, that's just awful. Objective, rational, linear thinking, cause and effect relationships.
That's systemic racism. That's systemic racism.
Now it's going really blurry. Planning for the future. How bad is that? Delayed gratification. Here comes sex ed. That goes right with the kind of sex ed they want to teach. They want to break, addict, make stuck. If you're broken, a victim, addicted to something, then they can just come in and do whatever they want.
You don't have a copy of that, do you?
Of this, yeah, I can send that to somebody. I'll send it to Lori. So you can have that. It came out of a teacher's, in the Northeast, a teacher's school.
Teachers
So,
actually got some stuff coming after this next school year, and then a copy of that.
and that's just something they were taught. They were taught that at their college. They see that kind of stuff. And so we have problems with that. So when you look at the Senate bill I'm going to show you, and please, somebody give me like a 10-minute, because I can do this forever. Civics, action civics, those are protest civics. That's what's agitating kids to protest. So when you see the word participate, here's constitutional democracy, engage, participate again. Yes, we want them to grow up and vote, and we want them to learn about the people who are running, but we do not want the influence from the school on how to do that. Parents do have responsibilities, and the school does not have to take every responsibility that a few parents drop, or in some districts a lot of parents drop. That doesn't mean the well-parented kids need to see this stuff, and especially without the parents knowing. So, let's see.
Cameras in every classroom.
Yes.
Well, and we've got a bill that doesn't quite do that, but it does help. So I'm going to go back to TFRW. They put out a statement yelling at us where they say TFRW has nothing to do with iCivics, and they say iCivics does not provide CRT curriculum. Well, I signed up for CRT curriculum under a different name, and you can find it even before you sign up, just in a question like, as more blacks are getting killed by white policemen, bing, you know, like, we're already there at the beginning of the little module. They're not all like that. They hide it better in some than others, but it's definitely done. So TFRW put that out, and they, you know, I don't know, I got a school board member who's hooked up with them who said, good thing nobody listens to Eagle Forum, but now she's really happy about another bill that we're fighting with her. So, I don't know. So, this is a coalition. It was called the Texas Civic Education Coalition. Golly, if you're going to join it, you email iCivics. iCivics' name is here, and this is Texas Federation of Republican Women here. These are in alphabetical order. This person led it. This iCivics lady is the chairman of the board of directors. Her name is Wendy Mae Dreyer, and she's, I think she lives in the Dallas area, so she knows the president. But they've just been duped. I mean, they've just been duped, but they do know who iCivics is, so I'm sorry. iCivics people are not Republicans. We looked at every donation that employees who listed where they worked, we put them all in, and their biggest donations were to the Act Blue, which passes through. But they also gave to Bernie, they also gave to Obama. We went back that far. But most of them are to Act Blue. And Act Blue gives to this Really America PAC. And just here in Texas, they spent almost $30,000 fighting Ted Cruz. These are opposing. These are candidates they oppose. Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, like gun-toting lady, Ron Johnson, Louis Gohmert. On Louis, who nobody will ever beat Louis, they spent almost $5,000. So, you know, so not a single, even moderate, questionable donation. Every one of them was a full-on leftist donation. So that's who iCivics, that's who works there and who runs it. So they do have curriculum. They have a lot of lesson plans. They have them for homeschoolers, and they're building more. And a lot of them have sneaky little CRT, and they're just plant the seeds. I mean, just like China does, just like Hitler did. So that's just reminding you that they said that. Now here's a coalition iCivics. They try to act so innocent. Oh, Sandra Day O'Connor started us. So on the splash page of this group of 170 groups that are pretty leftist, they're denouncing the assault on our Capitol, and they say here, it's further evidence of the fragility of our democracy. So we're back to democracy, and, you know, just, oh, it's all so ready to break. I mean, this is what they're planting and teaching, and we don't want it. So what's been called Senate Bill 3 so far through each session, and it's already passed in this second special. We need more help fighting it. We thought we had won, and we just don't win. They have this teacher training in it that's going to cost the state $14.65 million a year. It's delayed, and that part is delayed till 2025-26. So I would propose if a teacher can teach it before this, then they can teach it without the training. Don't spend my money. Don't let back doors be open, and the TEA and our commissioner are going to do this. And I don't fully trust them. CRT's grown in our schools with our commissioner, and the TEA, I'm sure we have leftists in there. I don't know them, but I'm sure they're there. It opens doors to CRT. It also has the word participate a lot, but they did take that out in this bill. They took out the two of the three little subtitles on participation, which we appreciate. Media literacy, Senator Jane Nelson put that in, and you're supposed to identify propaganda and media literacy. Those are so CRT. They turn immediately into CRT, and especially the propaganda one. I saw one of the partners with iCivics. They tell teachers, well, you know, here's a safe list you can recommend to your kids. It includes CNN, USA Today, Vox, and Salon. You know, these are not things you even want your kid to see, some of them. So what we, let's see, that's the Senate bill. What we want is transparency. And so this bill that was titled, It Is No More, it was Steve Toe. he did a bill that says parents need to be able to see everything. If your school has any function online, and depending on their size, they have to put on by subject and by grade everything your child has seen, heard, been presented. Now, we want to fine-tune the language to say a little bit more like with an outside educator, an outside group, you know, anything, not just teacher or employee related. But this is very, very good. And the bill also makes everything, every subject included, including non-subjects. So, although they say subject, we're trying to fine-tune that. I don't need, it just gets so hard once they're locked in, and I feel like he's a little locked in. We did win on no private funding. They had wanted private funding like Zuckerbucks to come in, and no direct action civics, that still creeps in. This implements quick, and he strips down the list and makes it, like he doesn't even have resources in there, they're already in the TEKS. So we didn't need that bad list to add to the TEKS. So this is just another, you can take a picture of it later, it's just a yes and a no when you read a bill like SB3, what you're looking for. What I want you all to do is tell Senator Hall that you don't like SB3 and you don't like that his name's on it. He signed it. He didn't sponsor it, I don't think. But he voted for it. I said signed. He voted for it. And if we don't get it done this session, I don't know, it's going to be a rush in the House. But if we don't get it done, we don't want this bill to pass. It doesn't. If it passes, we're better than nothing. It fixes a few things, but it creates some problems. So here is some help. Citizens for Renewing America. Were any of you Sentinels under Wade Miller? You guys know Wade? Yeah. They've made, he and a guy who was with Heritage in the Trump office, he worked for Trump. They've done this thing with Toolkit, and so does Heritage Action. They have a toolkit. So these are very, very helpful if you're trying to figure out, what do I do? We had a girl come to a meeting. She's concerned about CRT. She's already been in front of her school board, did a great presentation, and it kind of went viral in their area. And the lady who decides on their curriculum is talking to her. So, you know, you can make a difference pretty easily. So this is another bill that the Senate calls SB 9. They have already passed it, and this is a big concern for us. It's another thing that is not what education is there for. The governor vetoed the original one, 1109, and it's a sad story. It teaches dating. It teaches about dating violence. Because a girl was murdered, she was 16 years old, she went out with the old boyfriend, and he killed her, and then 30 minutes later killed himself. It's tragic. It was 21 years ago, just for the record, and I looked up how many kids die in dating violence, and it's very, 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 very rare. But it is this bill, the bill now, SB 9, is passed, and it puts dating violence in section 28.002. That is important. 28.002 is where history, reading, writing, arithmetic, all those things go. It needs, if they must pass it to feel good about themselves, it must go in 28.004. That's the health TEKS. The Senate did a fabulous thing at the end of session, last session, and put in an opt-in for sex ed and all of those things instead of an opt-out, which will protect a lot of kids. So the opt-in happens, if this is in 28004, it's going to fall under the opt-in. Their concern is we have to teach this because there are some parents who don't teach their kids this. Well, you don't have to teach it to mine. You know, mine don't have to hear about dating violence from you. They don't have to hear about sex ed from you. They will hear it from me. And so they say, well, these kids who don't hear anything from anybody, their parents don't care, then who do they download what they hear? You know, who do they download with when they go home? If they have an uninvolved parent and they just fall into these because the parent hasn't opted them out, then they're going home with a heavy load. The transgender stuff is so heavy. You are telling a child that they are God over their body. You know, the sex ed stuff is telling them their body's not worth protecting and nurturing, and that they're not, you know, special for the person they marry, and that families don't matter. We got told fighting with the, trying to make sure comprehensive sex ed doesn't go in schools. I brought up, you know, we teach, they want to teach that anybody, whoever your family is, like they don't want to teach that a mom and dad are good. They don't want to say, you really should strive to have a father for your children. They don't want to teach it because it makes some kids feel bad. I'm like, could it not make kids want something better than what they have? You know, isn't that what we want to do in school? So it's just, it's really frustrating. So this thing is passed. And what we need to tell Senator Hall is that we need to see it in 28004. It puts it under this SHAC, the Student Health Advisory Council, School Health Advisory Council. It's local people. They get to look at stuff first. They recommend to the school board. All their meetings are filmed now. You can watch their meetings. You should try to get on your SHAC if you can. They love nurses, doctors, anybody who, it can be anybody. I'm a taxpayer. I want to be on your SHAC to try to find a spot. Anyway, that is that's where it has to go. If this thing passes, it has to go there. Right now, it's in 28002. They're treating it like a subject. And now Representative Chaton has a bill where he wants us to do human trafficking in school. And human trafficking is a terrible tragedy. But does it need to be a subject in school? You know, probably no. I mean, parents should be helping their kids with that. We should have the discussion. They can talk about safety. There's stuff. Oh, that's the other thing. Dating violence is already in the TEKS. It's in the TEKS instructions under this 115 where they're supposed to address it. Oh, and the other thing is you don't want this in 28002 because they're going to bring resources that when you're on hold because you're afraid that you might be dating somebody who might be violent, they're telling you about being trans or gay and stuff on the hold. Cindy asked me to listen to all kinds of hold calls. She's like, you would not believe what they're giving our kids. So anyway, the battle's bigger than the issues. We're losing ground, and we've got to take it back. I mean, we've got to take it back. And where they take our kids, they're taking our future. So that's why we've got to make phone calls. We've got to put pressure on Keith. Bell has to be afraid that you guys are, not going to support him anymore, not going to be all happy when he walks in the room if he can't support the right things for your kids, for Texas, for America. So we don't, our standards are, they're so low. I heard a Dallas ISD school board the other day say, well, we did have this awesome proficiency in math in high school of 64% of the kids are proficient. But now it's only 32 because of COVID. And so now they're going to sweat it, but they're not sweating. The kids can't do math. The 36% can't do math. That's about it. Toth, Bob Hall has another good bill for transparency, and that's another issue. SB 3 on critical race. It has a fake transparency clause. I'm almost done. It says we're going to make the school, if they have an online process, give parents passwords. Okay. Every parent already gets a password, and that does not mean that everything that's seen or heard by the child is going to get presented to them. It was just a silly, fake transparency. We know Brian Hughes likes the idea of transparency. He just did it really, really wrong. Drew Springer's actually our friend. His office is helping on this. Somebody in the Lieutenant Governor's office is helping on it, but Lieutenant Governor himself listens to TFRW and iCivic. So, and we've got a thing out to find out, if they visited, how much they visited his office, because we'd like to know how much influence they do have. So I was gonna I don't think I need to bring any up. That's really it. I want you to get our alerts. I want you to make phone calls. When we have a hot bill, we will tell you what the problem is. We're pretty clear. It's in the wrong section. It needs to be in this section, so that you can be educated on the phone when you hear a friend complain about something their kid saw or heard in school or their grandkid. You know more because you're reading, you're kind of following along with what's being passed, what the problems are. It brings people in, and when you know more than they do, they also vote for whoever you tell them to vote for.
Real quickly,